On site, episode 2. We are here with Cole and with Jonny. What's good, fam? Welcome back to another episode of On Site. Today we're talking about pricing your murals and your artwork and actually how to increase the value of your pricing through things like community engagement, marketing, branding, and understanding the reason why people buy art in the first place. So whenever we get an inquiry about a mural or any sort of art package, I always start my calls by asking the prospect or the person who's asking for the art why they're on the call with me. What exactly brought them here? Why they're interested in working with us? Did they see something in our portfolio? Did they see one of our activations in the past that attracted them? Or do they have any certain goals in mind? When you start making the art about your client or the prospect and what their goals are, it's going to open up a lot more opportunity for you to charge a lot more money. You don't want to focus so much on selling your art. You want to fulfill a need for the client. Your art, if you're only selling the art, if you're only selling the beautification, this is a commodity, okay? A commodity is basically something that can be easily replaced by something else. So if your art is too expensive, then they'll just go to a different artist who maybe has cheaper art. So instead, what I always tell all of our mentees that are in our mentorship program is to focus on asking consulting questions, okay? A few examples of consulting questions are, what are some goals you have with the project? What are some ways that you feel like you're lacking in terms of community engagement or opportunities that you think exist in your marketing? Okay, because when we can start tying the artwork to community engagement, to marketing, or to branding, now we can open up our offer. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's give a real world example here. When we approached Sycamore Magnet Academy, I asked them what some of their main goals are with looking to buy a mural. And they said they want to connect with the community. So what are some ways that I can connect with the community while increasing the value of my art? Okay, does that mean I draw things and I paint things that are local to the area and that are culturally relevant? Yes, of course that's what that means. But honestly, that's what every other artist would do. Ways that we can step aside and separate ourselves from other artists and increase the value of our work is by asking questions. How many people in the community would you like to engage? How do you guys feel about doing a workshop with the community? How do you feel about doing an assembly with the community or an unveiling with the community? Okay, when you do things like this, you're actually generating foot traffic to the mural site, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, a mural generates foot traffic. Well, you basically have no data to back that up. Okay, that's honestly, to the client, that might sound like a bunch of BS. So to generate actual foot traffic, well, what we'll usually say is, what if we did an unveiling and actually sent out invitations to people that you want to have come to the event, your ideal customers or the ideal people that you want to engage through a community activity? Or what if those people even helped paint parts of the mural? What if we designed the mural in a way where certain parts of it were pretty simple and people can actually help paint? We do this all the time, and it allows us to charge, say, $5,000 for a mural. But if you want to do a mural plus a community workshop, now I can charge $7,000 for that. Right? So there's different ways that we can kind of add to our package to make it more exciting. But you have to ask the right questions when you're on your sales calls, your discovery calls, and when you're closing the deal. You want to lean into the customer's pain point. So Andy and I have been coordinating between two artists on site and also coordinating with two principals because we're going to be doing some student lectures. So what are some of the hurdles that we're dealing with or that we've kind of been dealing with this week?
Man, the biggest one is by far the rain. The rain is adjusting our schedule. We have student and parents coming to paint the walls, so the fact that we have parents included means we have to work around their schedule too. So it's not just the school schedule that we're working around, but the school himself has to call the parents individually and then plan it out from there. So yeah, it's been very up in the air as far as the rain and as far as scheduling goes and participation.
right? So we're trying to coordinate these workshops with like how many we have. We have 8 workshops total today of 15 people per workshop. So 15 times 8 is 120 people that we're working with today. So sometimes when we're doing things to community engagement, it can get a little tricky, especially when you're doing workshops, because you got to figure out how to rotate, how much wall to have, right? So we have to leave enough space for everyone to paint. And like Andrew was saying, we're dealing with rain. So now we have to move a bunch of things around because the days that people were supposed to paint, now we have to move them around with the rain. But we're trying to make it work. I think we're figuring it out for the most part. We gave the principal here at Sycamore a couple different options. So hopefully it all works out. Thinking it should be fine. Community engagement and coordinating workshops and stuff like that can be tricky sometimes, but
It's what the schools are paying for.
so what they paying for. That's right. That's why we sell murals for so expensive, fam. There's one analogy that I really, really like about pricing artwork or pricing a product in general, and that is thinking about the price of a water bottle. A water bottle at a gas station costs what? $1, $2, maybe on the high end $3. Now think about the price of a water bottle at an airport or at a music venue, right? Water bottles at these places are going to cost $10, and people are still going to buy them because they need water, right? So when we're thinking about artwork, you want to think about where you can place the art to sell it for more money, aka who do we need to sell it to, right? What sort of clients can we sell artwork to make more money? Alex Hermosi has this quote, which is solve problems for rich people, they pay better, right? And I highly, highly agree with this. There's when I first started the business, I was trying to sell clothing, I was trying to sell shoes, I was trying to sell skateboards, and I was trying to sell murals. Okay, so I was trying to sell all these different sorts of products. What I didn't realize is that each product was kind of taking away focus from the high ticket product, which was really murals, right? Because murals, to make $100,000 in the mural game, we could literally sell 4 walls. There's been projects where we've done 100,000 in one single deal as a mural agency, right? So now think about that when you're selling clothing, right? For clothing, maybe charge $30 per shirt. So you got to sell 3,000 shirts to make 100,000, and that's just in sales. That's not even in profit, mind you. Okay, the profit margins on clothing is so low. So I always tell artists when they're thinking about pricing their work, you want to think about the sort of artwork that you could sell for the most money and really focus on getting better and better at selling that good. And for us, for myself, that has always been murals, right? Learning how to sell murals for a lot of money because they're grand, right? They're huge. Now, when you're thinking about solving problems for your clients, which is where your art starts to garner a lot more value, is we want to think about why someone's buying a mural in the first place. Usually the reason why people buy murals are for community engagement. Okay, that's usually the number one piece is community engagement. The second piece is for marketing. The third piece is for brand elevation. And the fourth piece is for beautification. So a lot of artists, they're too focused on just the visual of what the mural is going to look like, and they're focused on selling that to their client. Now, when you're focused on just how pretty the mural is going to be, that's a commodity, okay? So sure, the art might be technical, it might be really cool, but that's just a commodity. When you're selling a commodity, there's no need for it. Now, what businesses do need is they need marketing, they need community engagement, right? They need buy-in from their community, and they're going to need brand assets, right? Brand elevation. Maybe you compare the mural with something like a shirt, right? Can you actually license part of the artwork and use it on a shirt? Can we extend the mural into other areas? Like, if, for example, if we're selling to a restaurant, can we use the art on to-go packaging? Or can we maybe even redesign a brand's logo with a mural? Okay, so there's different ways that we can use art to actually solve problems. And for us, when we're working with schools, we're always focused on community engagement and education. In the same vein, aside from selling from schools, you can still sell murals to corporate companies. There's more money moving in real estate, tech, medical, finance, and government organizations than most of the other industries, right? Sports is also a great industry as well. But when you're selling to these sort of companies, they're going to have more budget and they're not going to be scared when you're throwing around numbers like 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000. Okay. I've done six-figure mural deals, and I'm telling you firsthand that $15,000 really isn't that much money for a mural if you're in the right niche. When we're selling to corporate companies, things that they're going to be keeping in mind is how are we going to actually get more eyes on our brand, and how are people going to have more positive brand association through a project like this. So when we did this with Accenture, which is a really big tech company, what we did with them is we actually worked with them on their trade show. So I asked them, what are some events that you have coming up? How do you usually get your customers? How do you usually find your partners, right? Well, we find a lot of our partners and customers actually at trade shows. Well, have you ever thought about doing artwork at your trade show? And if so, what are some of the most engaging ways that we can get people to stop and admire the art so you can shake hands, make more partners, and get more clients? Right? So this puts you in a position of a consultant, not just an artist. So think about ways that you can use your art to actually solve real business problems in the creative economy. So let's talk about setting some hard pricing to your work, because in this episode of On Site, when I was with Jonny and with Cole at Sycamore Magnet Academy, asking them about how they've grown and the lessons they've learned, they both said that at the beginning they used to always undervalue their art.
Well, I had some self-reflection, like moments where I sat and thought about it, and I think the big thing is like placing yourself in the market and like what you're good at, and realizing like there are things that I can do that not many artists can do, which gives me value. That it does warrant me, upping my prices and letting the client or whoever wants me, understand that like, hey, here's what I can do for you, and you're probably not going to be able to find someone that can do it like this. And that's why I am this much, so it made me more confident in raising my price. I'm still kind of figuring that out as I go and messing around with different numbers, but I have like a, kind of a ballpark range where I shoot from the hip, as far as pricing goes, and based on the wall size and complexity and stuff. But it did give me more confidence to be like, because you're always scared to raise your prices. Every muralist or artist is always scared to start raising prices, but it's like, with the amount of work I do and going the extra mile that some artists don't do for like just the details and crispness of my murals, I felt like it was time to start raising it. And that was definitely a moment where I felt like, yeah, this is warranted. I do deserve to raise my prices a little bit more. I'm not being stingy, I'm not trying to rip anybody off. My time is just worth more than what I've been charging, So,
You get so many projects that you can do for yourself, and those are the ones that I enjoy the most, the ones where I have complete creative control. And so then the ones where you don't get that, you need to just make sure that you're getting paid enough to stomach having to kind of bend things, even if it's in a direction that you really would recommend it not going.
Right.
But yeah, no, just dealing with clients is part of the job. That's the fact of living in a capitalist society, and we all got to pay for things. But it can also be really nice if, depending on the situation, you can look at it. You can look at anything in life as a hindrance or a blessing, right? So,
Yeah.
maybe if a client kind of has really specific needs, well, then you can look at that as a challenge of, okay, how do I still make this look good and have myself inserted into it while trying to meet all of these other goals?
Right. Not sacrificing your style just because the client wants subject matter that you don't
Yeah, or
really see eye to eye with.
whatever it is, just trying to figure out a way to make it work, because ultimately, for me at least, I'm still very grateful for every job.
Bye bye. some ways that you can start valuing your art more is by knowing the industry standards. Okay, an industry standard for murals is you should always be charging a minimum rate of $3,000 at the very least. That's always what I preach. Murals are so much work, guys. You have to look past just the painting, okay? Because you're doing designing, you're doing revisions, you have phone calls with the clients, emails with your clients, so much back and forth. You draft the contract, you might have to do a site visit. All this stuff plays a huge role into how many hours actually go into a project, which usually tends to be almost like a month's worth of work. And if you're not charging at least $3,000, then you're making basically minimum wage or less for doing something that's super specialized. Okay, not everyone in the world can paint a mural. So when you're painting a mural, I would highly encourage that you start at the very least at 3,000. Now, if you're just a beginner, you've never painted a mural before, you're an exception to this rule. Maybe your first 1 or 2, maybe 3 murals you can sell for under that price point. Even your first one you could do for free, maybe your second one, but don't get in the habit of charging less than 3,000 and doing work for free. I think that's only beneficial if you're at the very, very, very beginning and you just don't know what you're doing yet, just to build the skill. Just so you guys are aware, we have a minimum of $10,000 here at Influential Walls. We will not touch a wall if it's under $10,000. There's not enough profit in it for us, and there's too many people that I have to bring on site that I have to pay, and it doesn't even make sense. And I'm telling you, all of our clients, they're usually closing above $20,000 in their walls anyways. So I'm telling you, you can actually charge a lot more for your piece. So you have to think about who you're selling to, making sure you're never going underneath your minimums. And another rule that I have with pricing is always present pricing on the phone or on Zoom. There is no room for negotiation if you're emailing someone pricing. If you email someone saying, yeah, I think this is going to cost whatever, $7,000 or a $10,000 package or an $11,000 package, they just say that's too expensive. And then that's it. You're never going to hear back from them. They're probably going to ghost you. Now, if someone tells me it's too expensive on the phone, I can offer them different options. Well, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, what if I break this into 4 payments? Is that going to make it easier for you? What if I discount the mural by $2,000, but we reduce the size of the mural? I'm happy to meet you closer to your number, but I can't do this level of work for it. We have to reduce the scope of work. You can negotiate, right? And when you're on the phone or when you're on Zoom, there's just much more connection between you and your prospect. You can relate to them, you can talk to them, they can hear your voice, they can hear your expressions, see your expressions if you're on Zoom or in person. And that creates connection and trust. People buy from people they trust. Don't forget that. If someone doesn't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. So you have to think about questions that you can ask. You want to think about, if you were buying a $10,000 product, what is the sort of presentation that you would want? Would you want someone to just email you saying, yeah, can you send me $10,000? No, of course not. We want to be connecting with someone that we're going to spend that much money with, right? We need to be able to build trust with them. So always present on a call. And one last thing that I will say about pricing is always offer 3 prices. When you give your prospects options and ways to work with you, it makes closing a lot easier, and it makes haggling and negotiating also a lot easier, because in the client's eyes, they're going to think that it's more standardized. Of course, you can always leave room for negotiating, but I would always present 3 prices. We talk about this all the time in mentorship, and I walk through with artists one-on-one how to actually present 3 prices to their clients depending on what the client wants, because each project is unique, right? So we have to send different quotes for different projects, but 3 prices is the way to go. I can tell you, since I started offering 3 prices instead of 1, there's so much less negotiation that I have to deal with, because the client thinks that everything is standardized. People. Oh, I like that.
I could do elephants.
Elephant.
If I want to start from the beginning of mural painting, the most pivotal moment was meeting Eric Junker, who's a LA-based muralist. It kind of gave me my start, truly being an assistant. And then eventually, I've done assistance for him and other muralists and stuff like that. And every single time you assist somebody, you get to learn new techniques and new skills. So I feel like every time that I've worked along with other people in the industry, it's helped direct it. But that first sort of encounter with Eric and getting the chance to see how the whole thing kind of works firstly, and like never having that vision before until I could really see it with him. And then also he handed me my first job, which was just a job that he didn't want, but a client that he had before. So he felt obliged to like help him find somebody. And so he just passed it along, and then that was kind of the beginning for me. So I would say that first encounter was probably the most pivotal.
One other thing that I feel like is always worth mentioning, guys, is the importance of community and mentorship. Everyone that I know that is a successful muralist has been mentored by someone else who has already figured it out. This is exactly why we started the mentorship community last year, and this aspect of our business is the most gratifying and cool part of the business, because it's where we get to actually gather with muralists from around the country online and talk about business concepts. If you guys are interested in interviewing for mentorship, you guys can apply in the link that's underneath this video, and it's really worth checking out, guys. We do one-on-one calls, we do group calls, we do mentee meetups in person, we've done retreats, and it's just a great way to pick the brain of people ahead of you. There are some people in the program doing 100,000, 250,000 in their business. There are some complete beginners learning how to sell their first few murals, and it's just a great place to get connected. So I highly suggest you guys check that out if it's anything that you guys are interested in. All right, enough talking. Time for the dope edit of the reveal. We are already editing episode 3 of On Site. Subscribe and stay tuned for more mural knowledge.